And the sick the doom the shena and air.
So now we'll do a little bit of Ditsik, the Chonam Tamche.
Oh, the
So we'll do a little bit of explanation. So if you've got this little handout piece of paper, we'll be looking at that verse. So, I find this verse particularly beneficial. And I actually think about it quite a lot. But before we explain the verse, it's probably the story of how this verse or this came about will probably be beneficial.
the extra give him the sharing. No need share the extra one. Put her here. This table no need paper. Yeah. Oh yeah. That. You can sit here. You can sit. No problem. 아니 망고찌기 좀 된대지 또 도리 도그치리라 그래. 데데도도다 도치란다 말해다지. 도치란 말해.
So a lot of the people say that this is the words of the Buddha, or it's a sutra, but you can't actually say it's a sutra.
좀 된대다 당보 와 찬주 투기 셈바상고지 깔레잡 고망보잡 안에 다르 상제로 네 상제네 총고 당보다 최마성반이마 시비시구대 네 최송 소에스네 딘시 총고 송모라 당보 공화디 상보 düja sungsa ane düja di khonga di sangbo sirwa adena khonga di sangbo din singin dina la ane tadu da langba mingjin sangden gyushikyu dana stik khonga di sirwa o di dindes chung resta dinshi de dinshi chunggo song resra.
So in terms of the story, well, first it starts with the Buddha who developed this mind of bodhicitta, this motivation to benefit others. Then attained enlightenment, and after attaining enlightenment, he didn't teach immediately. For 49 days, he waited till the situation was right to teach the Dharma. And then when he did teach, he taught to his five core disciples or the five first disciples. Did Minkare?
I think no need translator. Gyushikyu dina and tadu langjen sangden sangbo tadu langba mingjen sangden gyushikyu dina as five.
Okay, so those are the names of the five disciples, and then what he taught was the Four Noble Truths. So the teacher was the Buddha, the students were the five disciples, and then the teaching was on the Four Noble Truths.
다네 좀 된데 전에다 갈래 딱 깨라 전부 차로 자가 당보다 자가디 힌두기 출룩배 슈첨보라 근데 좀 된데 깨라 전부 차인데 다 된다 전환도 하고 당당하도 돼 실현 연구된데 셔리푸스도 셔리푸스 안에 배제 몽골 부인의 우승 여기서 몽골 부 네 몽골 부 그래 몽골부다 셔리푸니 톡보라 쳐도라 쳐도 톡보 말은 톡보래래 톡보라는 개인기로 가요. 아니 제가 단다디 힌두기 스콜라레 콘솔라 게루 배 망보여라. 아니 콘솔다 좀 된데 게다 첨보여가 코네. 다 좀 된데 제가 상관서 좀 된데 제가 독스님이지로.
So then after giving these teachings and started to teach, the Buddha started to become famous, become renowned throughout India. And at the time, the religion was this Hindu philosophy. That was the dominant religion in India. But then these people started to hear about the Buddha, and his fame started to spread. And then Shariputra, and you'll know Shariputra from when you recite the Heart Sutra, right? He's the one who asked Chenrezig the question about selflessness. And also, one of the other key disciples of the Buddha, Mongoliputra, they were friends, right? Shariputra and Mongoliputra were like friends, but they were Hindu scholars, very famous. They had a lot of students, a lot of disciples. But they started to hear about the Buddha's fame, and they thought, well, we need to actually meet the Buddha.
쇼바지 단다 따두스니도 따두 나도 상관은 거 따두스니데 베 졸람 야고 쇼제 상보 미수 토나 베 미카제데도 미카셰 통바장 가워요 미카셰 토나 토nye 마르거든데도 따두스니데 말 베 미상마 토나 베 가워 삼바시 게자시도 야고 수보도 남주 야고 다좀 봐서도 된대지 용고요. 이마직 네 당어마이나 데 쇼베 칼라롱고 도고라 칼라 디 도고라 베긴볼이 라다 베긴볼란데 디 트랜슬레이터 not good 베긴볼 베긴스도 롱어로 소뇽세야데 디 트랜슬레이터 디 야고면도 된다데 인지 칠 베긴볼색다 베긴볼란에 벽에 주기나 가래 롱어로 딜롱 말에 오네시나 미 담에게 네 소뇽 푸고라데 소뇽세 디 트랜슬레이터 딩오네 야고면도 나 책디 나와친도 책하셔 독자시고 요르도 대체 소뇽스도 데려와 미망게 담에 푸고요라 롱어스나 그제 단다 홈레스라고 들어와 홈레스 나시 말다데 그래서 미망게 칼라사가 쇼스 이 말이시제네 푸고요라고 담에 다니러 디 벨로가레 단다 벨로가레 소뇽스야 되잖아 롱어스야 돼 아니 디제 다디네 다디도라 다디쇼베 다 소뇽을 패고요라 소뇽 패디 아니 샤르부토라 샤르부 샤르부 다디 부다레테 부다레시 저런 부다 인베스티오라 베 지난데서 부다 나신 베 졸람데서 야고 쇼지요라 다디 안다디고 샤르불랑아 부다 마랑아 부다 글로브루기스로 로마이스 예밍라 네 다두시기요스 안 샤르부가 다 좀된데 제고요스 디그레 전화가 돼 유난 디그레 제나 디그레스 다 디링 아 용거면 아 톡고 몽골 봉은이 님도 용거인 그냥 그 꾸지꾸지 좀 된데 이제 최 가르승구도 아직 랍다스 아니 디 몽고 셰다두가 좀 된데 최배 망고송 그래 저랑 파용 좀 된데 게제티 아니 내 라고 말해 저랑 파쇼스 근데 라라
So there was one of these 5 core disciples of the Buddha that we talked about before, called Tadu, and he was very kind and gentle and like had this incredible manner about him and way of being. Everybody really liked him, right? He had very calm, peaceful, clear speech, and very beneficial. He was highly realized, like he was an arhat, and he was doing the alms round, right? And then, as a side thing, Geshe was saying that with this monk's bowl that they have, often it's translated as a begging bowl, but this begging is the wrong word. The word, because begging makes it sound like, they're homeless and that they're desperately trying to get something, but it's not like that. The word in Tibetan it's more like a merit bowl because it allows people to make offerings and people to practice to give and create merit and practice generosity and these things. So this idea that it's some homeless person asking for food is quite wrong. It's more this idea that people have this opportunity to give and to receive merit. So anyway, Tadu was on this alms round, and at that time he met with Shariputra, and Shariputra said, "Oh wow," like he was quite blown away, and said, "Oh, are you the Buddha?" Because his manner was so peaceful and calm. And Tadu said, "No, I'm not the Buddha. I'm the student of the Buddha." So Shariputra said, "Oh well, then I really want to meet your teacher. I want to meet the Buddha." And Tadu said, "Sure, that's fine. Come anytime and meet the Buddha." Shariputra said, "Well, I can't go today. I want to go with Mongoliputra, my friend, so we'll go together." But so In the meantime, can you teach something of what the Buddha taught? And initially Tadu was like, no, the Buddha taught so many things, you should come and meet him yourself. I don't want to say anything.
다 근데 책디 다 딱고 쇼한테 거전 셔를 보겠네. 그것이 다 책직 뉴뉴지랍다서라. 아니 다들 어디라래. 유래죠. 규디 대신 시고서. 될라고 뭐 가면 막 계정 첨부 되게서 계정 첨부서 좀 된대지. 근데 송구도 아니 책디 셔를 책디 껴 차와다가 셔를 줄라 똑바지 똑바. 책디 껴 차와다 셔를 줄라 믹스에 중당 즉 탑에 사명 바자든데 센 배 누워시 맨다 쉬어질래요. 고관나라 수분은.
So, but then Shariputra was like, no, please just say something, just a small something of what the Buddha taught. And so then, okay, Tadra, because of Shariputra's request, said this verse here. All dharmas originate from causes. The Tathagata has taught these causes. And also that which puts a stop to these causes. This too has been taught by the great Shamana. So great Shamana and Tathagata are all synonyms for the Buddha, right? So that when Shariputra heard these words, suddenly he kind of had these realizations, right? But you've got to understand, he wasn't like us. He had these very kind of strong imprints towards renunciation and in his mind already. So that's how he was able to hear this verse and immediately get understanding.
셔르브 심디 먼저 스프링기 메도나시 메도 셰쳐줘라. 스프링은 차바대에서는 메도 차바다 니마드는 메도 람산 샤용다.
It's like like how plants or flowers close up in the winter months when it's dry, and then a little bit of spring comes and a little bit of rain comes and they immediately open up. So Shariputra's mind was like that, like everything was there and just a little bit of Dharma and immediately his mind opened.
먼저 쌤디 메도게 시드나시 세월 대대던데.
Just dried up old seed and we have to prepare the soil and plant it and put fertilizer and do all this stuff and maybe we'll get some little sprout in about 100 years or something, So it's a little bit more challenging.
다드네 you have a question?
No, just what's up? I'll send it out if you.
What?
The
later. No.
I'll give you the Sanskrit later.
2:30. Next time, don't do like this. Okay, bingo. Okay. I don't like this one. No, stop. Just keep quiet. Then topic on something. Topic missing. 제가 college.
The Shariputra Bhakchak Mambo Nansa Bhakchak.
됐다. 다드네 셔르브 파난 로제 다 몽고불 몽고불 디링알라 좀 된데지 기루 스토송스로 엔 기루데게 칙딘데지 라부도 땅 아니게 와도 도고도서 칙 가르라부도스요 칙디 몽고불로 줘다가야 몽고불 줄레 똑바된데 제로 진데 제로
So then Shariputra was like, wow, this is pretty cool, right? So he went to his friend Mongoliputra and said, okay, now I'm a student of the Buddha, right? Like, he was so blown away. And so Mongoliputra said, well, what did he say? How come, what happened? And so Shariputra recited this verse again to Mongoliputra, and then Mongoliputra again also had realization.
제단다 칙디 수송버레스 다둑 송버 다둑 파바다두 신예디 칙디 송어레스다.
So who actually said these words? Well, it was the disciple of the Buddha Tadu.
이나데 간저자디 좀 된데기다 좀 된데 가서는 최단 탐제 귤레 총사로 당도 최 탐제 규단 견레데 총어레 세원데 아니 덴바시나게다 먼저 사제년은 이 풍보디 아니 귤레데 총어레 인상 아니 사제년은 풍보디 다 동에 덴바레스다 귤레데 총어레 데브레스다 디셰고라 당보 즉 고다도도지라 동에 덴바시고라 Right.
So this, even though Tadu was the one who said this verse, right? He's the one who said it. it is attributed to the Buddha because of what it represents. So this first line, all dharmas originate, all dharmas, chonam. Phenomena is probably better, and this dharma has too many meanings that will get confusing. So Chur can also mean phenomena, it's one of the meanings of it. So all phenomena originate from causes. So what's meant by this is that specifically these five aggregates, they originate from causes. And because of that, then they become the true suffering, right? So this is why, so this first line is the first of the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering.
다 디주디시 시외 송사데 네 영조 사제년의 풍보데 귤을 군중된 바 레다뉴모 다 가를되네 총어래디 그래서 다 주라고 시에나다 밤에기 쿠다당어서 제네틱도 몽보 시그라 드즈다 라고라고라 다 낭베 가르시나 데다 레디야 아니 굴롱 뉴모라 되네 총어 타두나 먼저 풍보데 레다 뉴모라 되네 총어래서 주 군중된 바 시에래 와
So then the second line, the Tathagata has taught these causes. So what's meant by this? This is the second noble truth, the truth of the origin, which means that these aggregates all come about through karma and delusion. So, you know, on a gross level, our physical aggregate, we can say that comes from our parents and genetics and so forth. But this is a very surface way or rough way of looking at it. If you dig down a bit deeper, everything comes down to arising from karma and delusions, and this is what the Buddha taught. And then this is why it's the second of the Four Noble Truths, the origin of suffering. The truth of the origin.
다 규디 대시시베 순사들라 디자인이셔나 리고라 직데다 텐데게 네다 레고 고노 뉴모게 자와데다 뉴모데 되자다 셰단다 콘로당 텐데레로 네 디게 자와데 디모데 제메셰바들라 다 마리바 몽바 먼저게다 나란저 타도나 나란저게다 탄다 코데오시나 탄다 지조나 탄데 지조를 게셰베이나 다 스트레스다 앵자이티다 디프레션다 앙그레다 잘레스 두즈 창마 몽바 마시발드네 디모딘지 마리바다 낭바치시나 디모딘지 마리바 몽바 마시바델라드네 총어레스다
So if we talk about this a little bit, this second line, this truth of the origin, when we talk about these karma and delusions, well, we can say these delusions on things like attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. But when you dig down into it, the root of all this delusions is this ignorance of not understanding or not knowing. Yeah, and so this is the final source of all our difficulties and problems, suffering, delusions, karma, and so forth. So this, in society, what you have is all the stress and anxiety, depression, exhaustion, all of these things. When you break these down, the source of all of this is, again, this ignorance of not knowing. So that becomes the source of all our difficulties and problems.
어디지? 네 딘데게 몽바 메시바디 아니다 세야라 다 셔럽고요. 셔럽로 다 셔럽이나라 아니 다 당도 미다고도 왜 셔럽 맞아 미다고 마시면 되는 동안 연구를 렌데지 남자 메시 타도나 디모디지 말해봐서 ngo베넬로 타도 메시바 안게다 안도 참마 아니 다 지 가르세레 마시바 몽바 다디 베제레 뭐 디레스타 간다 디시발라다 미다과당 다메당 렌데 남샤당 균데당 아니 동반이 남샤 셰바데 다디 미시바디 세야게 탑람 디게 드레스타 간다로 단당한저 코스티다 미다고시야 디시베이나 균데싱그레 미다고야고시나 균데싱그레 균데야고시나 렌데싱그레 렌데야고시나 다 렌데 도드시나 동반이 통야고시엔 동반이 통신스나나 아니 동에 용어여다 시다 용어여로 남도 용어여래 아니 남도 용어여나 아니 되자 시다 콘로도 용어여래 되네 배제 배제다 미 남도 용용들라 스트레스다 앵자이티도 배제 요지 말해라
So in order to clear away this darkness of this not knowing, this ignorance, you need this wisdom, this analytical wisdom or discriminating wisdom. And one of the wisdoms, one of the ways this wisdom works is the wisdom understanding impermanence, right? So, you understand this when we talked about karma and delusion. When you fully understand this is the final thing to understand. But in order to clear away this ignorance, there's many different types. Like there's ignorance towards impermanence, ignorance towards selflessness, ignorance towards emptiness, and so forth. So, this course we're looking at this impermanence and how to understand that. And the way to understand that is through cause and effect, right? And through understanding cause and effect, you come to understand karma and the law of cause and karma, cause and effect. And through understanding that, then you can start to understand emptiness and so forth. So it becomes the basis for many other understandings. And not only that, the more you understand these types of things, then the less thoughts come, right? The less busy your mind becomes. And the less thoughts you have, the less busy your mind is, then the less stress, anxiety, and these types of things that you'll have.
다 딜러 고바 카인 바 줄로 개존 침베 되게 송스르바 다 딜러 고바 카인 바사데 네 꼭데 다 딘데기 네 담에도 왜 셰럽데 탈론디야 예르는 담에 무슨도 또 미다고 무슨도 또 와. 딘데 차와데 다 람데레로 디톱기 네 당저 당지 사면 당 단답 변나 당긴 가서 검자인 바 먼저 다 단대가 계산가 정말 찍버시 되기도 와. 미다고 무슨도는 딘데 지에 따고 말해. 대천 따고 말고 단다 가서 주어도 되려면 쉬지 딘이 뭐게 주어도 이제 세버 쉬지다. 대바 마음 다다 베제 다된 거보다 이제 단다 주어도 되버디 세나. 니 찍바 임바데 따고 말아. 대왕게다 강에 가져 용으로 베데다. 로차르로. 제가 미다고 무슨도 또 미다보 무슨도 따야 템바 동반이 무슨도 야 될 람덴서 대도게 네 가서 여기 단다다 징요모 그 자와 사면도 제와데 빵도 대방바들라 꼭den서 다 되게네 람덴다 꼭den 그 남샤디 셰로
So then these last two lines, and also that's what puts a stop to the causes. This too has been taught by the great Shema. So this what puts a stop to the causes is this direct understanding of selflessness, right? And then that becomes the true path, right? And you decode the Shipa di London, Jula Gokpa Gangimpa Gokdin. Okay, so any London color?
람데 가야스나 주디디 시시베 송세 데가 도송.
Okay, sorry. So this
람데 yeah.
So this third line, that also which puts a stop to these causes, is the truth of cessation. So through the direct understanding of selflessness, then you put a stop to the causes of all the suffering and the karma and the seeds of the delusions and the seeds of these delusions, and then that becomes the true cessation. And then this fourth line, that too has been taught by the great Shramana or the Buddha. This is the true path. So if we understand it in the sense that we think today's I and yesterday's I are the same thing, but in reality that it's impermanent. It's clear that they're actually changing. When we start to understand these changes, when we directly start to see it, that becomes, that then we start to develop. And as we develop our understanding more, then, you can put a stop to the delusions and the seeds of the delusions. So this, in a sense, becomes the true path.
대화집에 템보여라. 거기에 맞아 발라다 대화도 템보여 말해. 테스트스레리 안 주버도 되대. 거기에 탑사나다 주버다 쟁에 가져 두자 예외이나 쟁 치견 가져 예외이나 수셈게 시워데 떨투고 말잖아.
So this true cessation, when you have just established this true cessation, then you really have a genuine, stable happiness. Right? Now our current happiness changes when causes and conditions change. It's not stable. But when you have true understanding of selflessness, then your happiness becomes stable. It's not up and down or anything like that.
어디지? 다디 가르디안에서나 당보디게 아니 코하게 규단 데버 다 준데 코에 남샤데 코 코단디 셰브레. 니와디 코월라 도베림바디 셰브레와 코월레 타르웨 람 나가서 너 코와디나라 가디위 나가서 동해 녀제 데오레 강에데 녀제 데오르스는 말에 수수 깔레지는 딜레 트레네 도사 신다제 요레스와 어디시게 요르다 돈도 도도데.
So the overall meaning of this is first Buddha taught samsara, right? What is samsara? This suffering and these difficulties and this rebirth and all that we experience due to causes and conditions. But then the second thing was, well, are we just stuck in this cycle of suffering, unable to get out of it? And then, no, that's not true. There is the possibility to get out. And then if you do, here's the way to do it. If you apply the effort in this way, learn these things, that's how you can actually attain this freedom. So this is a basic overview of what Four Noble Truths mean.
다 당보디 동해된바 당보시에 뉴스네 사전에는 이 풍보디 동해된바레스 동해된바 다 제주에들라 미다 동해동안 담에 시고라 다디 미다고서 저는 당보 먼저 풍보디 미다베란 시디 시고라서 어디 당보 좀 된데 당보 어디 송어래 따라와.
So the first thing that he taught was the truth of suffering, which is basically that these appropriated, contaminated aggregates are in the nature of suffering, right? These are the basis for this truth of for the suffering. So, if we understand this appropriated, contaminated aggregates is this in the nature of suffering, and as long as we caught up in these, then we'll always experience suffering. So that's the first truth.
자산다디 칙디 자신보도와 칙디 빼 지고쳐버려도.
It's like one line, but it has a lot of meaning behind it.
디 칙디 겨르네 삼다 세나야고요래.
Right. So yeah, if you really think about this and contemplate it a lot, then it's good.
다디네 단다 미다와다 서전이네 풍부 미다와다선. 다 미다와데 따야디다 너 개준부 가가지래라. 아니 말아서 개준부 가가지래. 아니 닐다 개준부 가가지래. 는 디네디 개준부 이나 땅에랑서 근데 곰 냠내 컨데스 오래. 그 섬로 가르 땅고래 딜라야 쇼베데스 땅 곰데스 겸나라.
So, in order to understand all of this, you have to understand impermanence. Impermanence becomes very important, right? This view is incredible. Understanding that it's so important, then we need to think, how can we meditate on it? So we need to contemplate that. So this morning we'll look at how to actually meditate on impermanence.
다 미다과 개침부 인바디 로아랑도 가지다 곰잡데 다 저런도 망고 곰제고요라 곰자님을 레즈레기도 알아 티 미타바 야고 곰나 레즈레야지데요 말해 단다 저어데 다 단다 쳐마제나나 가디시 하고 문들어 가도 하고 문도 레 저치마 켈링기 위나면은 시타네 가두고 이미 신기미도 알아 네 먼저 시험받에 가래 가 단다 데데가 욱당게 여버디 신기도 안 알아던다 단다 욱당거다 욱파다 욱수당 밀게지시 딩에 신기도 데당아 배줘야고 좀 마셔비나 네 제일로 가르치거나 하고 오면도 다스러 미다고 야고시나 딜레그로 아니 처지야다 곰제야당 아니 지 두저야고 용야 직디레 딜페펜도 쳔버로
So yeah, understanding impermanence is very important, because if you want to develop your mind, obviously you have to meditate, study and do the practices, but we kind of tend to be lazy. We're like, oh no, I've got better things to do than meditating, right? But this is because we don't understand impermanence. We don't think we're going to die. And whether you believe in next life or not, just from a logical point of view, you don't know when you're going to die, right? And we all know how to do like this breathing meditation and things like that, just watching the breath. And if we have this understanding of impermanence, thinking that I could die, then it really motivates you to meditate and practice the Dharma.
다디네 제가 아니 미다와디 공부이나 미다와야고 셴바이나 아주 뒤에 relationship 야르도라. 봐. 아주 뒤주 퉁두질레 대요 말에 디젤인가 전부제 대로 말아서 단다 디제데 국어로 아니 다 니만이 있으면 다 대성한다 하고 둔다직 다오직 로직 제라 먼저 가도 하고 말아 딜레 단다 대 니마 찡이지 다와 찡이 대제는가 전부 대로 디질라 가지 않아도 하고 말해 근데 삼다나 아니 수수 쌤들 밀어야지 tumbuchiyata yaguchiyala ne semdi shukchar togro chimena ane ngadenye togmado jiji samdande jantan ane te macham te tezeringa de gyumecha tizu nganzo midagwe samlu madana na ane danga de gyurungbu deore samdande na ane chokboda thomusang boring charo tizu tindujile deyamanso na de nga kugabli yaguchiyore 어디 삼다인데 지 밀 아규제 뇽도야 밀롱데 뇽도야 근데 어디 거네 릴레이션십 하고 차거에는 믿어 공부
Also, you know, understanding impermanence improves our relationships, right? Because you know, it's if we see something as like it could end at any time, we appreciate it. We see it as an opportunity, you know. Whereas if we're here for a long time, or you're in a relationship for a long time, maybe 1 month, 1 year, or longer, right? Then you can kind of get bored and like, you know, you don't really appreciate the situation. You think, oh, it's you know, it's so long and it's not. You don't really think of it as anything special, right? But if you understand impermanence, then it breaks away this thinking, you know. You realize, you start to appreciate the opportunity because it could end at any time. So therefore you don't want to waste your time arguing or kind of fighting over who has to empty the dishwasher and stupid stuff like that.
제가 데레다 미다와 대응원에 제자다 어나다 미다와 칸데 공고래 다당원서 미다와라고 미다와 참모세 다 미다와라고 당고 미다와라고 공부래로 미다와라고 공부래.
So, you know, when we meditate on impermanence, we have like gross impermanence and subtle impermanence, right? So first, you've got to understand what gross impermanence is.
다음서 곰대스죠.
So we'll meditate on that.
하이 천수연배 디 가서래. 해드릴래야 냐가요.
So you have now danger of getting a headache.
다야 곰대스죠.
So we'll meditate for a bit.
breathing exercise 쭉 곰쭉
So do the breathing exercise 10 times.
다 당부 동아는 좀 미기 통야 가리나 답변나 요드베란 신레스 베나 록나 신로 록도 계지 직로다 에 단다 베디 단다 지우고 깨고다 지우고 깨디 거기다가 직로다 알아 거기다가 직로다 다드네 아니 단다 추기다 롱당 다다 가르 거베이네 남산 직로다고 두 상마다 주버로 야디나시네 강바던서 강바만 매버 차도로 강바식 버봐 강바식 버스 강바 직바 두중은 하고다 상랑저 하고라 델라 마마 델라 강바디요레 다 민도 와서 아디 미다고 주버로 어딘데 삼당 당고 딘데 락바도 더 락바도 스테이트 삼당서
So the gross level of impermanence is said to be how things just disintegrate or end, right? So if you think about like obviously something like lightning, right? That's there for just a very short time and then it's gone. Also the bird sounds, the bird songs, they're always jigsaws like to disintegrate. But any sound, the sound of water, the sound of wind, that's always constantly disintegrating and changing. And then like physical things, like a house, houses also, they don't like, physical things, cars and houses, they don't last forever. Like there's many houses that were there before that are now knocked down and rebuilt with something else. So we can see how physical phenomena are constantly disintegrating.
다수수 냠냠나라 어디를 잘라든데 수수 잘라든데 매부 차도 내가 강바든데 매부 차도 아니 미톰바든데 삼다나 야고르 저는 푸노든데 삼다는 푸노서 푸노미기 그래도 미톰이다 저는 디치기도 된데 다 디닝자디 톰을 미드미 매부 차라 미드톰 유엔에 매부 차라 직보러 와대 푸노 미시두
funeral. Funeral. Okay.
들 tunjuk 데 저 벽에 전화 하고 말아. tunjuk
funeral. Okay.
Funeral. Pronunciation.
So like obviously we can see how physical things disintegrate, and we need to like bring this into awareness. Like there are things we have, that all disintegrates, but also people, obviously people die, right? Like we've all been to funerals, or at least if we've been to one, we know what we know about funerals. Like people, obviously they don't last forever, they die. So you can see how things on this gross level are impermanent. So we'll meditate on that.
다 믿어봐 곰자도 네 예연 곰자세 예연란 다든데 가서 숙천보이나 야고요. 그 단다매부 차도거든. 야고요. 네 전.
If you're meditating on permanence, then the more noise you have, the better. Because you can see how the sound comes and goes and is constantly changing. So it's helpful for your meditation on impermanence.
Some people have problem. You never lose noisy, 근데 총바드제 셰 전부 당당 미싱인데 딱다단 첸서단 로마와다 미신 뉴질랜드 미신 쇼 페조체가 미신나리 미신기 요구
Like, okay. So if you have a noisy place, right, and your neighbours are really noisy, then this becomes beneficial. Like if they're really playing music or things like that. But you know, a lot of people like they're always using different machines, like mowing the lawns or chainsaws or tractors or whatever. And people in New Zealand really love their machines, right? You can almost say they're a servant of the machine.
뭐마 있나 제보 요구 적으로 제보 요구 단대 교란서 제보 사버려 미신 제보를 교란서.
So we used to be like what's this word? The servants of the king. There's a word for that, and it's a simple one, and I've forgotten. But anyway, we used to be servants of the king. Now we're servants of the machine.
And people enjoy it, you know. People like.
Subjects of the king. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, did it? Yeah, 상상을 치기게 저 근데 곰잡디 상상을 되갈래도 알아 가시 곰잡디 삼바 책을 가나 깨다만다 잡나네 곰기 강에서 거다 뒤도 미다고 나 줘도 거기
sometimes there's various sounds like people noises or dogs barking or things like that, and if we're trying to meditate and these nouns come, you know, it can be disturbing if we're trying to focus on something else. But at that time, it's good opportunity to do meditation on impermanence.
다 impermanent 공디 게임도 뒤지 신의 공디 미신 게임에 망고야 드림이도야.
So yeah, it's ironic. Now that we want to meditate on impermanence, it's perfectly quiet. But whenever we want to become abiding, then there's always tractors and chainsaws going hard. So
the lungs there, lung.
Yeah, there's a little bit of wind sound. You can maybe hear that.
다스 수부라 수부에 수부대 주와 간주 대세 강바대 주와 근데 미그 통야 포바 다 가래나 또 창마 다 계지를 주어도 요래 삼세.
Also think about how your body is impermanent, it's constantly changing and disintegrating, and everything that you see, like the cups and the tables and things like that, they're also impermanent, changing and disintegrating. So think about that.
나도 상마 주어도야라시. 레스 주어도고요. 레스 왔다 주어도야라시 잔자레 삼디 신나야고도 주어도.
So understand that everything is changing, everything constantly moving and changing.
다 먼저 미다고 라과데 딘데로 체 미다고 라과다 빼도서 중앙 중앙숨고 통고요라. 제야고에 당부 미다고 라고 공부를 해서 당부.
So now if you see, this is talking about the gross level of impermanence. So it's good, to really understand that, get a real good understanding.
This way, I would do something that things under Gamara, Gunga, fire mango, memango tangra, and sugar study, sugar the Tanda Dua, and men and Jamna, Mev Chasonga, Sing Dog Dodge Tanda de Dua, and men and Jamna, Chuzijinal Mev Chasonga. But does that Mida what the Kadu Tonguda, the Nyoet Tonguda, to say away?
I mean, like, we can see it in just general life. Like in winter, we're always having a fire, and when you put things in the fire, they disintegrate. Like paper disintegrates in a few seconds. Even a bit of wood takes maybe an hour or something, but that gets disintegrated as well. So you can see, that things are that are changing and disintegrating.
This is Tambo Rakba to the Samno Dangra. There's Musum Tongra, Rakwe Midaba Musum the Tonte, the Kajamo Bere, Deep Missy Kajamora.
It's important to understand this growth, really get familiar with this growth and permanence. Because we can see it, you can directly see it, and it's very important to understand.
That in any Tinoma and Tato do any Tawamida was at it, that Gaji Yodora, that Dujetum, that did Tandangazo Tongo Marangasum, that the Jumzengo and a Mishigita. Poverty, Gaji Yodors, Dumare Salanyagar. What they was Lanyagar.
Then the startle type of impermanence. Well, this we can't see directly, right? The way things are constantly changing. This we have to do through reasoning, through understanding and reasoning. Because, when we say, is this cup constantly changing, initial instinct is to say no, right? You can't see it directly changing. It looks like it's not.
And so they share nobody Yomar, and they go Gaji share nobody Yomar.
So we don't have this ability to understand this, right? Or to know it, like that the cup's constantly changing.
The deal idea with some modern physics, quantum physics, any concept, the Kuyo Jabja Deva, the thing it was Penanzo. The Tadaya, Toxic, the Tasam, could you get the
Yeah.
Did to say I would have got that Zed Kaduna, could you get there?
It's good if we understand this through physics as well, right? Like, they know that basically on an atomic level, even on a molecular and atomic and of course subatomic level, everything's constantly moving and changing, right? So that we can see that, and they can actually observe this directly through the right kind of machinery, like probably on a microscopic level, you can see how things are moving and changing. So they have this ability to actually perceive this directly with the right equipment.
The poverty and Zed, the Kuyo Jab, Dera,
So, like this cup, for example, is constantly moving. And I'm sure you've all seen videos of microscopes where something looks to be still, like water or something, and then they put a microscope on and there's all these things moving around inside, And then, obviously, if that's the case for this external phenomena, then it's true for our bodies as well. We need to understand that our bodies are constantly changing, and what looks to be solid is.
No, that goes to Power to the Midawa in Bahakonoma. This day, Power Shuji Gavina, Midawa, the Chas, okay, Malagra.
Yeah, so even understanding like impermanence means you have less attachment, because if you think, this cup, God, it's such an awesome cup. So love this cup so much, right? But if you understand impermanence, then you can't really have that, because it's going to break and it's going to be gone. So you can't be that attached to it.
The Mikashe Jalala, holding she was new to Midabo Gongwina, Male Chado.
So, those people who have a lot of real strong grasping to things like stuff, if they meditated on impermanence, it would really help with
I saw maybe last year one from China, one lady, she's cray. Her father was very rich, and her father gave billions. And then all color is gold color, coloring gold, and all this garden on chairs and lots gold, And she has cancer, and doctor says you are dead 20 days you're longer. she's so holding. I don't want to die. What is me? Because mugudo. Tanga DJ Shannon. Ngashig means. Ngashig. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Like it's like I don't want to die because I've got all this stuff.
DJ Shannon doors. Ngashig. Tumai.
What's gonna happen with all my gold?
They like that. Mugudo.
So just like crying. Yeah, this is really strong grasping, self-grasping.
Chesa. That midaba gona ko gaya marwa.
But if you meditate on permanence, then it should be sweet.
Teba di tedore. Keba di jigdore. Then me yabu chanjo di maso de madunjo di yador yamador dos ko yamare.
So what do you say? Like everything you get, you have to let go of, you have to give away in the end, everything that's high becomes low, everything that, everything is changing and permanent, everything that meetings end in separation, everything disintegrates like this. And
they sometimes think, we thinking, oh, rich is all the time rich, poor all the time poor. Not like that. Poor become rich, rich become poor, Isn't it? Now that, I saw last week in America, lost billionaire, homeless people. Lost billionaire, homeless. Homeless become billionaire, billionaire become homeless. Did you ever
everything's changing like
that.
Sometimes you have, you have one place and then it's gone, and like a house, and then you don't have a house, and then you have a house and you don't have a house, and the same with your relationships. You'll have this friend and then you'll split and you'll have another friend, and it's all changing like that. So it comes and goes and stuff.
Reality.
So this is the reality of our nature. This is the reality of our experience. Like sometimes we think we have like this choice or control over things, but it's not the case. Sometimes things just happen. Like everything's changing, and we can't always control everything.
I never thought, I mentioned before, I never thought when I was young I go to India, And then suddenly, just made decision very, very fast, maybe 6 months before decision go to India, Then I went to India and I lived in 22 years and never thought, never thinking I go to Western or New Zealand. I don't have plan go to a Western country. Some people have plan go to Western country. I don't have plan. I want to stay in India. And then something happened and come here. Just decision. And New Zealand decision is very short decision. And future we never know where we go. Exactly, you have experienced same, isn't it?
So everything constantly changes, and you never know what's going to happen. So this is impermanent.
Yes, those measure David Neju, oh, didn't they share the Mambala Korean Hako, Madura? That Hada Ningarangoneta, Susu, that Joranzo, that Comjala Gabada, they are sure that.
So, if you want to think like, if you through understanding this, it changes your whole perspective, makes things different. It's very good if you can meditate on impermanence.
I think meditation is best your friend. Best friend is your meditation. Isn't it? Best friend. Gange yune robochigre. Digi yune yargetan to meditation.
So when you're having difficulties, your meditation can help you with that. When you're happy, it can help to improve your happiness, make you more happy. So meditation's like your best mate.
Okay, now we stop here. Maybe lunch ready.